Okay, so we've got a mountain of info here about blood pressure medications. Someone's been doing their research. It's a big topic. And I got to say, understanding these meds, it's like unlocking a whole new level of heart health.
It really is. And it's something so many people are thinking about because let's face it, finding the right blood pressure medication, it's personal, like finding the right pair of shoes.
Love that analogy.
Wow.
So not one size fits all. Got it. But with so many types, where do doctors even start? This source, 9 blood pressure medications from the Empty Spot, lists 9 categories. 9.
Yeah, it can seem overwhelming, right? But think of it this way. Each type targets a different pathway in the body, different tools for different jobs. Some are like, gatekeepers, I guess. They relax your blood vessels, blood flows easier, boom, pressure's down.
So instead of your blood squeezing through a tiny door, these meds just widen the doorway.
Exactly. Then you've got others, like diuretics. They're more like plumbers, gently flushing out excess water and salt through your kidneys. Less fluid in the bloodstream equals lower blood pressure.
A balancing act. Our bodies. Kind of wild when you think about it. But medication, there's always the side effects thing. This same source mentions ACE inhibitors. Pretty common, right? Can cause this nagging dry cough.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of how meds, even when they're helping, they can have these quirks. That cough, it's actually a buildup of bradykinin in the body. Harmless, mostly, but definitely annoying.
So if you can't handle that, ARBs are the go-to then, because this says they're often prescribed when ACE inhibitors are a no-go.
That's a common strategy. And it just shows how doctors, they're not just looking at one thing. It's your whole medical history, potential side effects, even lifestyle, all factor in. Got to find what works best for you.
Makes sense. Which reminds me, this bit about grapefruit juice. Who knew something so, innocent could mess with blood pressure meds? I know, right? It's like an old wives' tale or something. But this source says it's true. What's the deal with that? How can grapefruit juice actually mess with medication?
Well, it all comes down to how our bodies break down, metabolize things and how meds can get in the way of that. See, grapefruit juice has these compounds that mess with certain enzymes in your gut, the ones that break down certain blood pressure medications.
So instead of being, processed normally, the meds just build up in your system.
Exactly. And that means they can hit you harder than they're supposed to, which can be risky, kind of like cranking the volume up way too loud.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way to put it. So, lesson learned. Read those labels carefully. Maybe even double-check with the doc or pharmacist about interactions, just in case. Speaking of things we should pay attention to, this bit about taking your blood pressure pills twice, because you can't remember if you took the first dose.
Oh, yeah. I think we've all been there. But with meds, especially these, more is not better.
Yeah, this source actually says doubling up on blood pressure meds can be seriously dangerous.
No doubt. Better safe than sorry. If you're ever unsure, just call your doctor or pharmacist. A quick question is better than, a trip to the ER. But here's the thing. Managing blood pressure, it's bigger than just pills, right? That's just one piece of the puzzle.
Totally. This source really emphasizes a holistic approach, doesn't it? It's about lifestyle changes, working hand in hand with any meds you might need.
Exactly. It's like building a house. Medication might be part of the foundation, sure, but you need those other things, diet, exercise, stress management, to really make it strong. And those things, they can make a huge difference on their own, too, even without medication.
So where do we start? What kind of changes are we talking about?
Well, diet's huge. This source really zeroes in on sodium. Cutting back on processed foods, watching the salt shaker, all that.
Right, because too much salt makes you retain water, which can bump up blood pressure.
Exactly. And it's not just about cutting the bad stuff, it's adding in the good. Fruits, veggies, whole grains, they all support a healthy heart, healthy blood pressure.
And exercise.
Yeah.
Even a little bit helps.
Right? Absolutely. Even 30 minutes a day, a few times a week makes a world of difference. Doesn't have to be crazy intense either. A brisk walk, gardening, even just dancing around your living room.
Love it. Whatever gets you moving. This source also talks about stress management, which, let's be real, life can be stressful.
It really can. And stress, when it's chronic, it just beats up your body. Your blood pressure's no exception. This source, they highlight things like meditation and yoga, proven to help lower blood pressure.
I've tried both. They definitely help. It's amazing how connected everything is. Mental health, physical health, it's all linked.
Totally. And it reminds us that taking care of ourselves holistically is one of the best things we can do for our hearts. Not always easy, but so worth it.
Couldn't agree more. Speaking of worthwhile, got to ask about this part about intermittent fasting for blood pressure. Sounds like the research is still developing, but are there any promising results there?
There are. It's really cool to see how much we keep learning about how our bodies work. Intermittent fasting is definitely having a moment, and some studies show it might help regulate blood pressure. More research is always good, but the possibilities are exciting.
They are. It reminds us that knowledge is always evolving,
Yeah.
right? And we can always refine how we approach our health. And speaking of knowledge, this deep dive has been packed with it. But before we wrap up, what would you say is the biggest takeaway for our listeners, for folks trying to understand and manage their own blood pressure? What's the most important thing to remember? After all that, if I had to pick one thing to remember, it's that knowledge is power, right? Especially with our health, we've covered so much today. Different meds, lifestyle changes, it's a lot. But where do we go from here? What's the next step for our listeners who are ready to take charge of their heart health?
That's the key question, isn't it? And I think it comes down to this. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Your doctor, they're your partner in this. The more you know, the better decisions you can make.
Like you said, finding that perfect fit for managing blood pressure, it takes communication, really understanding what you need.
Exactly. It's moving away from that one-size-fits-all idea, embracing the fact that everyone's health journey is different. That's why I love this suggestion from the source about talking to your doctor, asking them, what makes my case unique? Why is this specific medication the best for me right now?
Ooh, that's good. It's not just listening, it's starting a real conversation about your health.
It's empowering. You're not just a patient, you're an active part of your own well-being.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this amazing deep dive. A huge thank you to you for making such a complex topic so clear and understandable. And to our listeners, thanks for being here. Remember, knowledge is power, but putting it into action, that's where the magic happens.
Couldn't agree more. It's been a pleasure diving in with you both.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep those questions coming.